Hello, it's Cindy Olin here with Create Your Own Luck in Love, and welcome. We are live again with our Level Up Your Love Life event, and I am here with Angela Holton today. I'm so excited to chat with you, and we're going to be talking about relationship and dating sabotages. I can't even talk right now. Around myself, saboteurs, really, and how that happens, what are common things we do, and really, I know Angela is committed to supporting you guys and unhooking and really having a breakthrough in your love life, in your healing journey, and opening your heart up to receive the extraordinary love that you desire and deserve. So I'm going to share with you guys just a little bit about Angela. And so first, she was named by Yahoo Finance as one of their top 10 relationship coaches in 2020. And as an international dating and relationship expert, speaker, spiritual leader, author, and founder of Love Sanctuary, I love that, an online personal development site centered on helping women create the relationship and love they desire from the inside out. She's also the creator of the Conscious Love and Dating Method, a modern and revolutionary approach towards dating and relationships. Angela teaches a deep dive, 8-week virtual course, the Conscious Love and Dating Method. Become the one you want and attract the love you desire. And today, welcome, Angela. So excited we're here.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And, today, like I said, we're going to talk about breaking those cycles of fear and sabotage in relationships. So what would you say, where do these cycles start? Let's start there.
I think they start the minute we learn fear and heartbreak. And we can discover fear as children. And as children, we learn whatever that first heartbreak is, that maybe love isn't safe. Maybe parts of myself aren't safe to be exposed or not good enough to be exposed. So we learn to create a pattern to protect ourselves that we don't experience that type of hurt and pain again. And those protective barriers, those walls that we put up, are forms of sabotage. But also when we're triggered or feeling that things are getting too close or intimate, that's when our saboteurs may also show up. So, fear is something that is created. Right? We're not born in a state of fear. We're born as in love, but we learn fear and we experience fear. And when we experience fear and hurt and rejection and feeling that we're not good enough for love, then we create ways to protect ourselves from ever being hurt. And most of it's unconscious. So as much as we may desire love and partnership, that fear of getting close or whatever our story is and our pattern, we will adopt a way to protect ourselves, to not feel that fear, that hurt again.
Yeah. So how would you say it? How do you normally see it show up or manifesting itself when it comes, when it shows up in dating?
Oh gosh, there's numerous ways that it shows up. I mean, just pick up any person. We all have some form of sabotage. There's often that negative voice that tells us, uh-oh, this is scary, this is frightening, you've been down this path, or this isn't safe, remember you tried this before, or you're not really good enough for this. So, you're not lovable, so we'll find a way to sabotage something before it's even created. So the way that might look in dating could be serial dating. We never really want to commit to one person. So we go from relationship to relationship to relationship without ever having to really emotionally expose ourselves. Promiscuity, sleeping around with multiple partners keeps us from connecting on an emotional level. We can avoid intimacy because really at the root of our fear of relationship is the fear of vulnerability, being seen. And so the promiscuous person might do that. The serial dater might do that as sabotage. Someone who's very quick to judge, the judger. You find fault in every person you're dating. But so if I find fault with everybody and it's them and not me, well, then I don't have to commit. I don't have to really show myself or grow toward love and vulnerability because something's always wrong with that person. So the list can go on and on. The avoider. You might have someone who avoids conflict or emotion in general in relationships. So there's that protection from the relationship ever diving deeper. And that can happen in dating, or we're looking for the exit strategy, right? We're always looking for that door, like a sign that we can get out of it, or we're always looking for something better over our, something. So those are some of the common things that show up in dating. In terms of longer term relationships, it could also be like being the people pleaser, being the isolator, being the person that's in denial, or you create walls of withdrawal or you isolate yourself. So you name it, there's many different forms of sabotage. Or we can also create stories of jealousy or delusions of paranoia that the person's doing something. Because if I create drama and conflict and that something's wrong with this person, it gives me reason to get out.
Yeah.
Or playing the victim.
To withdraw or punish which then eventually the relationship won't stay or won't stick because that individual will eventually, it's a way of pushing away.
Exactly. It's like, don't get too close. And also playing the victim and victimhood in a relationship is also in dating. Oh, they did this to me. They hurt me. Oh, he said this, she said that. It hurts. And we play that powerless victim. And that can be a form of sabotage also, where something's always out to get us and to hurt us.
So how does one start to break free of that?
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that. And I also want to talk about, really being able to embody vulnerability, because I feel like that's just such a big, scary thing for so many people, men and women alike. But I would love to hear your, how we start to unhook from the saboteurs that we can create.
Yeah. Well, the first key is to name your saboteur. Name
it. So simple, right?
Name it.
Yes and no.
Acknowledge it, have awareness of it, because that's the first step, right? The key to any form, the beginning to any transformation and change is self-awareness. So be aware of looking at your relationship patterns and taking accountability for the part that you played. Because it's always easy to project and blame and point fingers. Oh, it didn't work out because this person's this or this person's that. That's never going to empower us to change and have the ability to change if it's always displaced onto someone else. So really looking within our past relationships, what role did I play? What behaviors, actions, thoughts did I hold on to that could have created part of the downfall of the relationship? So first is awareness and taking accountability. Noticing what sabotage is when it shows up. Right? So when it shows up, you're more aware of it, like, oh, I'm doing that thing again. That's the first key. And journaling, I believe in journaling. Journaling helps us connect the abstract in our thoughts and in our hearts and gives it words, gives it expression. So really journal about your fear. What are you afraid of? What are you running from? What is the saboteur helping to serve you? I'm really afraid that I'm not going to be seen as good enough by this person. I'm really afraid that the relationship's going to end anyway, so I may as well end it now. I'm really afraid that I'm going to be rejected, so I may as well reject the person first. I'm really afraid that I'm going to lose my identity. I'm really afraid that we're going to end up in divorce. So why even go down this path? So out the gates, we have a lot of these unconscious fears that we need to pinpoint and acknowledge, okay, what has kept me single or in unhealthy relationships? Own it and write, what am I afraid of? Am I afraid of being committed to one person? Am I afraid of getting bored? Am I afraid of being faithful? Am I afraid, whatever the fear is? Journal about it. I also believe really powerfully in seeking a coach or a spiritual counselor or a therapist. I'm so sorry, to work through those. I'm so sorry. It's going to ring really loudly and it's not in my reach. I'm so sorry. So I'm just going to pause till it stops ringing.
Yeah, no problem. Well, it's, it's your phone. My child could start screaming through the house at any time. It's a family.
I'm going to go toss the phone somewhere. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry.
Quick coffee sip.
Okay.
I have my multiple coffee.
I'm back, and I am so sorry for your audience. So sorry to your audience.
Okay, guys. I was entertaining. Multiple coffee drinks.
Yeah. So acknowledging it. And then, as you see the behavior showing up, that's when you got to go within and say, okay, this has shown up before. This is the choice I've typically taken. And you got to take those small steps to changing, to choosing a different outcome. Change just doesn't happen without purpose and intentionality. We have to begin to take those small baby steps. So when we notice I'm creating a fictitious argument here, how can we do something differently? And that's when you work with a coach and a therapist and you help get tools to recognize what you're afraid of, what you're avoiding, and begin to just start breaking that. But the key is to notice it. The key is to notice it before you.
Yeah, well, and you know what's interesting? I notice this often with my clients, and I'm curious if you notice this with yours. My clients will just tell me what it is. Oh, I'm feeling really scared that if I actually marry this person, we might end up in divorce, or, a variety of things will come up. Or I think, oh, if I marry this person, is this really the best person for me? Or
that comes up a lot.
It's all of these things, and those are what we're saying is those are fears. Those are fears and saboteurs really standing in your way of creating the intimacy and connection that you say you want.
You say you want. That's the key, that you say that you want, because it comes with taking those risks of vulnerability. It comes with taking those risks of potential downfall or failure.
And sometimes
everything does.
And I think, part of those fears come through because we're afraid to fall. It's like when you were a baby, or, I don't remember being a baby, but I remember my baby was baby.
Yeah.
And falling and experiencing those little things. And, as we learn and we grow, it's part of the journey.
It's part of the journey.
You fall down, scrape your knees, and get back up and, learn and grow. So I want to talk about vulnerability. What are some ways that one can, if you have these fears, and if you're watching this going, oh, that's me, that can, I can identify with this. How does one go down the path of starting to be vulnerable?
Yeah. So the first part is to ask yourself why you're not vulnerable and what you're afraid of. What's the fear holding you back from wanting to be open and emotionally exposed? It can be frightening. It is. But just as there's no guarantee that love will work out, there's no guarantee that anything in life will work out. So when we surrender that sense of thinking we're in control of things, in control of our hearts, in control of the narrative all the time, we're simply not. Love is a risk. And you can either decide to get back on the horse and experience some of the greatest love that is why we're here, or we can live in fear and shelter ourselves and not experience love. So yes, vulnerability can be frightening. It is giving someone else permission to hurt you. But just as like deciding to be a mother, deciding to become a father, you are choosing to be vulnerable and to have your heart exist outside of you. Is that not the case as your mother, right? So
Yes.
you decided to be a mom because you knew that the love would outweigh the fear that you had.
Most days.
Exactly. Right. So it's the same thing with relationships.
Tongue in cheek.
You may still have that fear that it may not work out, but if you live and you move in the direction of that fear and keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, guess what? The other shoe is going to drop. If you keep feeding the fear of divorce, if you keep feeding the fear that they're going to cheat on you, your belief is going to come true. So the first step is acknowledge what the fear is. What am I afraid of? What's the worst thing that can happen with vulnerability? What's the worst? And then think about what's the best things that can happen in vulnerability. And then, as we talked about understanding your patterns, it's important to understand when we learn fear, where the connection is of understanding why. And that's the inner child in us. That's the little kid in us that feels unsafe. It's not our adult self. The adult self will be able to rationalize, not feeling hurt, not being scared, right? It's the little kid in us. But that doesn't mean we don't acknowledge the little kid in us. We do, but we have to dissect where that fear of vulnerability came from. Was it a mother or father not showing up completely? Was it a breakup? Was it previous relationships? And dissecting that story, journaling, healing from that. But also, we have to keep bringing ourselves to the present moment. And we have to keep telling ourselves, this relationship is not my ex. This relationship is not my mother or my father who abandoned me, rejected me, abused me, whatever it is. If this person is showing up differently, we have to keep coming back, because those feelings that we're feeling are typically reactions to the past.
Yeah, of course.
And so are we going to let the past dictate our present and our future? Are we going to let our 7-year-old speak for us? So journaling is a huge part, because if we can't be vulnerable with ourselves and writing freely, how can we open up our mouths to anyone else? So first, be honest and transparent with yourself. I journal every morning. Just write down your feelings, get them out, uncensored, right? It's for you.
It's a beautiful thing to be able to do that brain dump. And there's so much
feelings out
that comes out in writing.
Yeah, you got to get it out.
Come out in languaging. Yeah, I agree.
And then from there, you practice. Like everything in life is a practice. Everything is a practice. We are here to practice. We are here to learn. So you practice being vulnerable with someone you feel safe with. Maybe it's a friend. Then you try a little bit more and share something that's maybe a little closer in, but where you feel that feeling of trust. I am about boundaries. We don't just overshare and give our hearts and wear, our hearts on a sleeve for anyone to soil our hearts with their dirty hands. No, you want someone to earn your trust, to earn your vulnerability, that you feel safe. Another way for speaking particularly to women to feel vulnerable is to practice asking for help and receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Women often struggle asking for help and to receive. It's vulnerability. It's saying, I need help, but that's a huge start. So if you're watching and you say this is you, I would like to challenge you to ask for help in an area in your life where you might be struggling. Whatever that is, ask for help and allow yourself to receive. Vulnerability is openness and exposure and receiving. And it's the willingness to expose ourselves without knowing the outcome. Mm-hmm. We don't know how relationships are going to turn out, but can we still expose our hearts? And here's the other thing too. People often think vulnerability is expressing like the really negative feelings or the hard stuff. Vulnerability is also speaking those loving things. Vulnerability is about when your emotions are attached to someone outside of yourself. And that's what makes it scary. But even telling someone you miss them, or I really enjoy my time with you, is vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Also saying,
those are just really small steps.
But to start there, because relationships can't build without intimacy and transparency and vulnerability. So start small. Start small and take a deep breath. You're going to be all right. And you'll feel much better whether the relationship works out or not. Yeah, in the beginning, if it doesn't work out and you're hurt, you'll be like, oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that, right? We all say like, I shouldn't have done that. But it really is true. It's greater to have loved and lost than to not love at all. Imagine not knowing love. I actually watched Tina Turner's documentary last night on
Mm,
HBO. And she went through a very tumultuous, painful, abusive relationship her first early years of adulthood.
mhm.
Then after that, she said she had never really experienced love, not until she turned 50 and she married the love of her life who was 20 years younger. So imagine if she hadn't opened her heart again to love. And now this man's been in her life 30, 35 years. So she could have kept that narrative of abuse and fear and love not being out there for her, or she could try it and open up to it. And she got it. So imagine a life where you don't let love in. It's a
Mhm.
lonely, isolating life. We're here to love. We're here to experience love. And, we do get hurt. But when you've been hurt, you know you've gotten through it before. So you honor yourself through the grief and the mourning process. You pour into yourself with self love. You work on healing yourself. You work on doing better and learning what you needed to learn from that relationship. And you get back on the horse. Because love is regenerative. Love is restorative. Love is redemptive. Love is why we're here. Love will always be what makes the world go round. Even in COVID, love is what makes us heal. Love is what makes love happen.
Mhm. Yeah, amen to that. Um, I could just listen to you talk all day, Angela. You have a beautiful voice and a
Thank
way
you. Thank
of
you.
sharing and, keeping it simple. As I was talking about vulnerability from the get-go, I felt, I oftentimes intuitively think about the audience and think they might go, oh, sharing something or being vulnerable feels like I'm being needy or I'm asking too much, but it's what you shared, just starting with asking for help. And it's funny that you shared that point first, because that's oftentimes the the women that I work with that have a really hard time being vulnerable. I give them a challenge around asking
Asking
for
for help. Same here.
and
Yeah.
yeah, we're so aligned. And it's funny what starts to unfold, and I ask them to just watch what happens, watch how people show up, because men especially, they want to help
They
women.
that has to be there. If you want a masculine tendency man or, masculine energy, that desire to be needed is important. But that doesn't mean, vulnerability is a superpower. It's a superpower. It's
Mhm.
knowing that you are capable of being open and exposed and receiving love, and that you're good enough. You're good enough to be seen. You're good enough to be exposed. Asking for help is a superpower. It is saying, I am deserving and worthy of not having to do everything by myself. That we're
Mhm.
interdependent in this world and we need one another for community, cooperation, collaboration, that we're better together than apart and individually. So
Mhm.
when you can ask for help with confidence, wow. Or when you can expose, my platform began through vulnerability. And I connected with a lot of people around the world because I was willing to be vulnerable. And I'm still willing to allow people to witness what vulnerability looks like and how I'm not embarrassed by it. You know
Mhm.
what it makes me feel? Human.
Yeah,
And it makes me feel like I'm giving myself permission to be human and I'm giving other people permission to be human and that we're all experiencing the same thing. We all experience pain at some point, joy, happiness, fulfillment, jealousy. And when we recognize that we're all the same, then we can give ourselves permission to speak our truth and to share ourselves more openly because no one's judging us but ourselves.
absolutely. And it's interesting because you know people, I think a lot of people have this inner fear with, like inner struggle with being vulnerable because it appears imperfect, or what are people going to think? But when you think about movies, does anybody really like or trust the perfect person, or aren't they always pulling for the person that's in the struggle, that's, that's moving through it? You're rooting for them, you can connect with them. And same is true in normal life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, in the work that you and I do, we don't connect with clients because we come off as perfect. No, we connect because we share our struggles, our intimacy, our thoughts, our inner reflections, and people who are afraid to show that they're imperfect, you are imperfect. You're
Hmm.
not perfect.
I
You're not
think.
intended to be perfect. No one is perfect. So showing your imperfections is really showing your true self, because anything else is inauthentic, because no one's perfect. And
Right.
Instagram may curate what looks like perfect, but we have to be careful of that, because we all know that in between those pictures and those timings and those feeds, real life is happening. And part of our lives we choose not to let other people see, but we're all imperfect. Don't be afraid to show your imperfection, because you're not perfect. I mean, it's just as simple as that. You're not perfect. You never will be. Perfection is never the goal,
Hmm.
because that's another form of sabotage. If you're thinking perfection is the way, you will constantly be in pursuit of something else until you attain the unachievable.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
It's I think, it's like anything else. Having a fear around being exposed is usually the, the strive towards perfectionism, because there's that subconscious protection that's going on in the brain that is, has well meaning to protect you,
Yes, doing its job.
and it protects you from good things and from, real danger. So is there, any other, I mean, these are really good actionable um, steps to take to just get started and, opening up to getting support, being vulnerable, and not overcomplicating it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all in this together. We're all figuring it out,
Hmm.
honestly. So
Absolutely. And I know you have a gift for our watchers
yeah,
and
I think I do. Maybe just go to my website at lovesanctuary.com. There's a free download there. It's a conscious love and dating method dating guide to just get you started.
yep, that's
And
what I have here.
yeah,
And we've got it posted here too for
yeah.
you. So the conscious love and
Dating guide, and to think differently about dating. And it's really the shift in our mindset. And that's a whole other interview, but it's the shift in the mindset to help us date differently.
absolutely. Yeah. That, as soon as that shift happens, it's, allowing for the miracles to transpire, to receive,
Right. That's
um,
good.
real connected partnership.
Yeah. And they show up. It does. I see it with my clients all the time.
Hmm.
Miracles in all forms. Love comes in many forms.
Yeah. And two, I think, there's been a lot of anxiety over the past year, and now we're starting to move away from that. And, now life is now. It's
Always now.
and it's if this is an inspiration for you, I don't know what will be. So it's your little tap on the shoulder to say, hey, okay, it's time to step forward and dive deeper into the journey. So I really honor you, and I thank you so much for being here with
Thank
us
you,
today.
Cindy. Thanks for
This
having
is
me. Thank
great.
you, everyone. I hope it was helpful to someone.
Oh, I think it was helpful to many. You're very, very humble, and I love the way you share and speak. And I can't wait to dive into our next conversation
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Cindy. Good luck with your day to day. And thanks everybody for watching.
Yes, and to everyone else, here's to you, and from our hearts to yours. Just honoring you for standing in the fire and leveling up your love life and staying connected to your vision. We will see you on the next and the very last broadcast next. And till then, bye.